Welcome to Pigeon River Farm, doing farming right. I'm Robert Brown, the owner of Pigeon River Farm. Thank you for viewing. Well, good evening. Tonight I have some thoughts. Some thoughts of what's going on with inflation and the shortage. I would call it the shortage of everything. What I can't get over, I follow the news on an extremely regular basis, and I get such mixed signals when I look at the news. And we have bookends. I mean, from there's no problem whatsoever to we have an acute problem. Well, I'm going to tell you what I see going on here on the farm or in our community, and I see actually a lot of problems. First thing, let's start out where we're at with inflation and other people's perspective. So over the last month, I have been asking many of my fellow farmers what their concerns on fertilizer, the high cost, and I was really quite astonished at how few are actually aware of the fertilizer dynamic. It was really kind of shocking. Some of them were fairly confident because they had already pre-purchased their fertilizer, had not taken delivery, and the delivery has not even occurred as of the taping of this video. The next thing is fuel. Fuel everybody's aware of. So we're all aware of the sheer cost of the fuel, and nobody's concerned about the availability. Next one is propane. Now, we've had an incredibly late spring. Latest I can ever remember. The ground has not got any temperature in it. I did do some no-till planting in our pasture, but for the most part, nobody's worked up the ground. Nobody's even thought about planting even some of the early crops. So we are in trouble from that perspective. So the propane, the heating need is still raging on, but I understand that there's only around 10% or 30 days of the propane that normally would be available. So that's a very serious concern. So that kind of goes forward into the fall. Hopefully we'll have that resolved. The next one is the fertilizer itself. The sheer cost of the fertilizer is unaffordable for the people that are using chemical-based fertilizers. And I'll specifically talk to nitrogen and hydrous. And we're going from a price that I remember of last year, what I was told was around $300. Now it's heading toward about $1,400. Not sure if that model is going to work for the folks that are growing corn. Next one is potash. Potash is extremely expensive. Again, highly needed. I know the potato people that are a little bit to the west of us here, that's a big vegetable zone called the Central Sands of Wisconsin. They're really short on potassium. I know they're short on nitrogen. So what I'm seeing on the street here with the farmers as we're just getting ready to farm. Now we're in an upper tier, so a lot of the folks way south have already planted. From everything I've read, that is way behind schedule. In the far north here, we don't have temperature. We have these very high costs, and the only farmers that I find that are really confident with the year are the ones that have already pre-purchased their fertilizer. They don't have that burden load. They paid a lot for it last fall prices, but they feel comfortable going forward. Now, the one question nobody knows, and I brought it up and everybody seems a little alarmed, don't even want to talk about it, is will it be delivered? You normally do. Some will have their own process to get it on the field, but most actually just call the co-op and they bring out the big spreader or sprayers depending on the situation. Don't know. They are still waiting on their deliveries. They have some in stock. So we're going to find out. I think we're going to be in a situation here going forward that some farmers are going to have a decent business model and actually may profit very highly from this year. Other farmers are getting the shock of purchasing fertilizer and or can't even get it at all. And that's the thing I've started hearing the last week is non-availability. You call for fertilizer, they say we'll call you back when we know we can secure inventory. So that's a big problem. Next one is seed. If you decide to change at this point, most people have pre-ordered their seed, the seed's in inventory. I know a number of farms that want to break away from corn because of this high input cost, and they want to go over to soybean. Well, that's one of my concerns. Not going to be enough corn. There'll be an overabundance of soy. Maybe not overabundance, but we're going to be short on corn. Well, you got to think about it from the seed suppliers. Nobody puts in double or triple of what they're going to sell. They forecast, well over a year ago, what they think the needs are going to be moving forward. So the plants that were growing last year for seed are the seed that's available this spring. We do import some from South America, so that will be a little bit of an adjustment there. But overall, you can't make a rapid change. I've talked to a couple local farmers about raising oats for my farm. Can't get the oat seed, so that's not even an option. We're getting really late into the program here. So that's all my concerns. Now get into spare parts. So the equipment, planters, tractors, everybody's getting out ready to go. If you need parts, good luck. I've talked to people that can't get rims, can't get tires. I've talked to where they can't get miscellaneous filters, can't get belts, unable to find specific repair parts, especially into the digital world. So when they're finding controllers of that nature, sensors that are malfunctioning, this is the whole plethora. It's the tractors, it's the planting equipment. None of this seems to be readily available. You don't know it's not going to be available till you inquire, and then it's a little bit too late. Go past the respective dealerships, and their inventory almost looks like they're going out of business. They don't have anything in stock because it's not being manufactured. So the availability of equipment moving forward. Over the weekend, I was at a very large auction that's nearby here. It's 3 rings for auctioneers. I noticed that the tractor prices were extremely high. All of the equipment was very high. And in that particular case, the lower grade equipment, the stuff that is kind of an orphan now between the stuff that would be between a hobby farmer and a larger scale farmer, the junk guys were picking it up because of the high price of junk. But there was no farmers actively bidding on this. What equipment was viable and was beyond the scrap price was going for very high dollars. So again, this is all inflation. And the reason I did this long-winded description is this is going to impact food costs and impact it significantly. And one of my concerns is actually going to be availability. With so many variables now, and I read the USDA's bulletins every day, I try to stay in touch, but I don't know if anybody really got their fingers wrapped around this because there's too many moving parts all happening simultaneously. If you have the seed, and you have the fertilizer, and you have the fuel, and you have equipment with no failures, you may be wildly successful this year. Any one of these is a no-go. You're going to have a poor, dismal, or no crop whatsoever, even if the weather cooperates. Well, we're not in a good spot in the upper Midwest right now with weather cooperating. This is not a year of flood, not a year of drought. It's the year of cold, extremely cold. So it's one of the 3, and this time around we've got the cold, and the cold is dampening out the ability to get a lot of crops in. So it's going to take a while for the soil temperature to come up. So that one is going to retard the amount of yieldage we get, even if everything goes right. So my concern from our farmer's perspective is I'm a purchaser of feed, excluding our grasses. So we pasture, we buy the hay, or pretty much produce most of our own hay. I buy in often some. But for our poultry, we buy in all the non-GMO and organic feeds, and I don't know where we're going to be for our poultry. There's no guarantee. We haven't planted yet. The imported product odds are not going to come in. So we're looking at local, and then is it going to turn into a bidding war? I know the ethanol folks, a lot of people are planting corn based on ethanol prices because the fuel costs so high. So that's going to draw some away. Some is going to be exported. So we might have a very competitive pricing dynamic The only thing on the flip side of it is anything that's produced locally has to be shipped and the high fuel costs. So when you're analyzing what you can produce, you have to look at all these variables. And you as a consumer, if you look at it from a consumer standpoint, you got to be aware of this very much, because when you have a shortage, farmers deal with this. We have shortage of hay. Best one example. There's nothing more terrifying than this time of the year and have no hay and no place to buy it. Well, that is terrifying. I mean, you could have animals that actually could starve, and we've had a number of years where floods and droughts have caused this to happen. Well, I think this is the first time that people could be in the same problem. I'm not expecting starvation, but I'm expecting prices to maybe astronomical by next winter in spring, because availability won't be there. We'll have used up our stock, and we will try to go to alternatives. But a lot of these alternatives don't have an infrastructure in place. As an example, if there's not enough wheat to go around, the production of flour, what is an alternative? Well, I guess we could say corn, but very little corn is actually produced for human consumption. Most of it's industrial, ethanol, plastics. It's going to be animal feed, a little bit closer, but it's stuff that's actually geared toward human consumption, i.e. organic or open pollinated, conventional, is going to be in very, very short supply, and everybody's going to be competing for it. So these are food for, no pun intended, but food for thought to consider stocking up a little bit. Everybody I know is trying to put, I'm not talking hoarding, I'm just talking about putting a little bit away now, and that'll allow you to ride out the buffers. Just like farmers, we put away extra hay, extra feed for the winter, because we never know what the spring is going to look like. So that would be my advice. Also, stay tuned. We're all trying to figure out what's going on. The other advice that I would have is, if you are capable of growing a garden, I would advise growing a garden. It can be fun, interesting, and it also could be a buffer if we do go into a food shortage condition. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time, and have a most wonderful evening.